Ray, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. So let's do this. First, thank you for taking your time. I know how precious it is. So I appreciate it very much. But let's introduce ourselves and love to just have a chat with you if that's okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm Cheryl Ingram, work for Tom Ferry, senior consultant, done a lot with him, and love to interview our clients, quite frankly, just to hear about your experience and have a natural conversation and just get to know you. So, who are you? Where are you? How long have you been in coaching?
So my name's Ray Ellen. I am in Arkansas. I own three offices here in the state, and let's see, I've been in coaching since 2016. I think it
Okay.
was when I joined coaching.
Okay.
So for a little while.
Okay. Minute.
It seems like
How,
yesterday.
right? Goes fast. I know, right? It's crazy. I'm like, we're halfway through 2021, by the way.
Wow,
Crazy.
really? That's true.
Right? It's
Wow.
insane. Okay. So three offices. How many agents do you have?
We have around 40 agents
Okay.
in total.
Okay. Got it. What tell me the path that led you to coaching with Tom Ferry. I'm curious.
So this is a funny story. I was in an office and I had watched the production of another agent in this office that I was at increase big
Uh,
time.
okay.
And I kept asking her, what are you doing? And she would kind of give me these tips and tricks. And I was finally like, where are you hearing this stuff from? Like, where are you finding this out? And she's like, oh, well, I have a coach and my coach is helping me and telling me this stuff and I'm implementing it
Mm,
and it's doing well. So
okay.
I'm forever the skeptic. So I
Okay.
did not sign up for coaching right away, but I started watching Tom's because she told me it was a Tom Ferry organization. So I
Hmm.
started watching Tom's YouTube.
Mm,
And at the time, I think the Tom Ferry show was like brand new at the time. It
hmm.
was and he would do like a tip every week. One a week, he would go on and say, "Hey, you guys should try this geo farming. You guys should try this, how to door
Right.
knock." And so I would say, "Okay, let me implement something like that. And if it benefits me, then I enjoy coaching." So that was my first exposure to it.
Okay.
I started doing some of the stuff that Tom was sharing to do on YouTube. It was working for me. So then I got involved in coaching shortly thereafter.
Okay. Got it. And what would you say from the time that you got in to now, like what's been the benefit for you, increase in production? You don't have to give specific numbers, but how has it helped you? What does that look
Hmm.
like?
So, I mean, there is the accountability. I think that's a lot of what coaching is
Hmm.
knowing that I'm going to have to report to my coach on the stuff that I said I would do,
Hmm.
and it's that additional level of accountability. But I
Okay.
think more so than that, the sharing of ideas and having somebody that's another professional in the industry that I could bounce this idea off of and
Hmm.
get some feedback on before implementing it, and maybe a couple of ways to tweak it that they've seen other people do in the industry and the
Hmm.
connection. So, I mean, there's been a ton of benefits, but
Okay.
if I had to narrow it down, like the number one benefit, I mean, my business has grown, which is awesome. But when I first joined coaching, I said, I need help with this. And at the time, I wanted to
Hmm.
increase my business because I felt like I wasn't at capacity. So I needed to put the systems and processes in place to generate additional leads, to get more people under contract, and then be able to handle that number of people under contract. So
Hmm.
at the time, I think I would only have like three or four under contract at one time, and that kind of felt overwhelming. And I went from that to someone that had usually 10, sometimes 15 or more under contract at one time pretty regularly. And
Yeah.
the coach that I had at the time was kind of in that position, was able to help me kind of pull me up where he was.
Mm.
And then the next time I wanted a coach that specifically would help me hire an assistant. And she did. She was awesome at that and help me put the process and systems in place to find someone and then to
Okay.
begin to train them and hire them and then find someone else if that didn't work out and all that. So
Yeah.
it's been a very specific, for me, a specific task. And
Mm.
they were able to pull me into that where they already are.
So what you're saying, or at least what I'm hearing is you've had different coaches. You're like, hey, okay, this coach helped me do this. It's been awesome. But now I want
Yeah.
something different. So you're kind of prioritizing, at least what I'm hearing you say is I'm prioritizing the things that I want to accomplish in the business, attacking those, and then just constantly moving you forward,
Right.
right? Going
Right.
at your pace,
And I
right?
think I think it's healthy to change coaches. And there's some people that
Mhm.
are like, I've had the coach for, 8 years. And I think that
Right.
can be good in some cases. But for me, I wanted to change coaches as soon as they became more my friend.
Mm.
Because, as real estate agents, we don't pay for
Mhm.
friendships. And
Right.
so, and they become, really great people and great friends. But
Yep.
then there will be a moment where they won't really want to hold you accountable to that thing because they like you
Mm.
and you're their friend. And when
Mhm.
that moment happens, I think that's when you have to take an honest assessment of where you're at and say, okay, it's probably
Okay.
good. We're probably at the moment now where I need to find another one. Just kind of
Yep.
keep refreshing. And also
Yep.
you're hearing it from different perspectives all the time. And
Yep.
you're getting a different set of eyes on what you're doing and your problems and processes. And I think that's
Mhm.
also healthy. So I
Mhm.
I was very task oriented. And then once we completed that task, I was like, okay, now I'm ready for something else.
Yeah.
So I think that's one approach to take, but the other approach would be, having someone to where, like for me, I need it to where they're going to be stern with me and put up consequences if I don't complete a task. And
Right.
if they got to the point where they're too nice with me, I needed someone else. So
Right. Yeah. I had
yeah.
a conversation with another client and they said, I'm afraid just enough of my coach.
That's
Just
a good way to
enough.
put it. Just
Right.
enough fear. Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
enough that I will do what I need to do and get the results
Yeah.
that you're looking for. But you brought up another point that I think is valuable is learning different perspectives, right?
Mm.
Like, how is being a part of the network, right? The Tom Ferry network, the ecosystem, or the Tom Ferry family has been called by multiple people, thousands. What does that do for you?
Hmm. So that's where I think you get advance notice of ideas that are coming. So
Mm, interesting.
there's a lot of books and stuff written in real estate. There's a lot of gurus that put stuff out all the time, and I
Yeah.
think all of that is kind of birthed from the top 1% or the top half percent that's
Hmm.
actually doing this stuff that pushes the industry forward.
Hmm.
And when you're in a large group and you can kind of say, someone says, hey, I've had this idea and this is what I've done, maybe farming in this neighborhood, and here's how I've done it. And then someone else says, man, that's
Yeah.
a phenomenal idea. I would have never come up with that idea.
Yeah.
But now that you have, I would suggest adding this piece to it
Yep.
because that will solve this problem. And then someone else says, well, you guys have solved two awesome problems. I have one that y'all aren't even talking about. And here's how both those things help this. And so now you have this this thing, this idea that is way better than one person could have thought of because of the multiple inputs from all these other professionals across the US. And
Mm-hmm.
then that idea becomes refined through trial. And people say, well, I went and tried this idea that you three were really talking about, and here are my results, and here's the
Right.
issue. And then someone else says, well, I've got a solution for it. And so it just kind of keeps refining itself. And now you have something that one of the top teams will put in place, or maybe one of the teams put in place that helps them become a top team. And it's not one idea, it's the discussion of ideas. And that's the mastermind concept where you're getting multiple inputs from people around the country that are actually practicing it, boots on the ground. They're out
Hmm.
there doing the job of a real estate agent and
Yep.
perhaps finding the best practices before those best practices are written later in some article that you see on Inman, or produced in
Sure.
some book that some guy wrote based on these
Sure.
agents that are doing it. So you get kind of,
Hmm.
it's like the live interaction and interplay of ideas that's affecting the
Yeah.
marketplace.
Yeah. Okay. Got it. That's awesome. That's a great way to put it. I hadn't thought about it like that because I do see a lot of our clients sharing their ideas. But really what you're saying is, yeah, they're sharing ideas and like I get along with this person and we chat or we create this group. And we're like, hey, yeah, but that's the base level. What if we do this? What if we
Yeah.
just take it to that next level? That's fair.
Yeah.
Is there anything about coaching that I would say that, or that you would say totally unexpected, right? Because again, you said you were a skeptic, which many of us are. I appreciate that. Was there anything you're like, I didn't expect that?
The So I know Tom at the conferences will make a lot of income promises, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like your income will grow by this or your money back
Mm-hmm.
type of thing.
Yeah.
And it's easy to see now that I'm in coaching why
Yeah.
he would make that, because it's very
Yeah.
obvious once you're in it and the benefit that I get from it, that that's an easy promise for him to make, which sounds crazy, like, hey, money back guarantee, right? But whenever he makes those types of promises, he can back it up because from the inside, it's a no brainer. It's like, yes, of course.
Yeah.
And so that was probably what's most surprising, is that it actually worked. Which, as a skeptic, that's the one thing I'm
Yeah.
looking for, is this
Yeah.
really going to work? And then
Yeah.
so one of the big benefits from it, or one of the surprises, was, wow, not only is it working, but I'm feeling better about where I'm headed. I
Hmm.
am um, I am more oriented in the direction that I want to go, and
Hmm.
things were kind of coming together a lot quicker than
Hmm.
I anticipated.
Got it. How would you feel like compared? Because I hear this question a lot, right? Like, well, why don't I just watch Tom Ferry's YouTubes? Or there's a lot of stuff on the internet. Why do I need a coach? Right. Like, but really, in my opinion, that's all training. Coaching is different. How would you say, okay, as opposed, comparing those two options, because we all have roads,
Yeah.
right, that we can choose, comparing those two options, I'm just going to watch the stuff online, get information there, compared with having a coach help me implement that information. Like what are the differences for you?
Yeah, that's a great question, because for the first while I did do the Tom Ferry thing, and the Tom
Sure.
Ferry YouTube thing, I,
Yeah.
I think you could get a lot of basic information of what to do,
Yep.
but the key is the implementation in your specific market and specific
Mm,
situation, and your specific brand and your
okay.
specific personality, and how
Mm,
you specifically like to do things. So
got it.
yes, you can get the overarching idea of how you should door knock in a couple of good scripts. But then your coach can say, okay, where are you going to door knock? What neighborhoods? What time of day? What do people work generally in your area? And what would be a good time for you to be there? Do most people send their kids to
Right.
school? Or they're stay-at-home moms? Like, what
Mhm.
is, and so figuring out and game planning how to take this idea of door knocking and implement it very specifically to
Yeah.
what you are doing
Yeah.
is, I think, the probably the biggest benefactor there, of over just like watching something or reading a book.
Right.
The guerrilla marketing book is a great example of that. When that book came out, a lot of people were like, oh, guerrilla marketing, this is incredible. This is a different way to market. But the
Yeah.
implementation of that was a whole course
Mhm.
that, I think his name was Conrad, when the guy, I mean, he
Mhm.
he had all these courses and everything to implement this book that he published. So yes, you could go buy the book, but if
Right.
you really wanted to know how to do it for you specifically, then you
Right.
needed some additional steps to implement around your way of doing business. And I think that's what the coach does for a lot of us.
Sure. Sure. Well, I mean, I guess really same reason I have a personal trainer, right? I don't want to think about what to do. Is there a gym I could go to?
Mm,
Sure. Right.
yeah.
But tell me what to do, hold me accountable. Show me
You know,
what works for my body. Right. I
yes,
mean,
I
same
was
thing.
going to say that's a great example. So I coach
Mhm.
CrossFit in the morning
Okay.
sometimes.
Oh, nice.
It's my hobby. Um,
Oh, nice.
and it's, there's a lot, you can watch that stuff online, like,
Mhm.
how to do a deadlift and how to, but when a coach is watching you specifically move,
Right.
and they could say, take your toes and move them out a little bit, or do this,
Yeah.
lean this way or that way. They're
Right.
specifically taking that movement
Mhm.
that you're
Yep.
wanting to try to do. You could do the movement where you bend over and stand up. That's a deadlift, right?
Correct.
Or you could do the movement where you bend over and deadlift and stand up, and you're specifically targeting your hamstrings and keeping your
Yep.
back flat. And they can make those
Correct.
slight adjustments that will keep you
Mhm.
healthy
Yep.
and allow you to move a lot more weight. And I think that it's the same thing in real estate.
Yeah. Cool. Okay. So in terms of where here's something that people always ask, right? Well, is this like another coaching company where they're just teaching me how to door knock, since you brought that up, or, cold call? Like, where would you feel? Because you do the research, you see a lot of stuff online, and I fully acknowledge that there's a lot of stuff out there. Where would you feel the difference would be, let's say Tom compared to other people?
That's a good question too. I think it's probably I don't feel like there is another company that's closer to the edge
Mm,
of what is working
okay.
than this group of people. And it's not just, it's not Tom. He's not sitting on
Right.
some high throne saying, oh, this appears to work, I think.
Right.
No, and I understand that the whole coaching organization leans not only on the coaches and the experts in the field, but also on the members and
Mhm.
also on other people in the industry.
Yeah.
So I haven't found anything yet that's closer to the edge of this seems to be working and you can implement it this way. And not only will you probably be one of the first people in your market to do it that way, you will
Hmm.
probably have more success than anyone else in your market after you because
Yeah.
of these things that they've already put in place or figured out.
Yeah.
And I
Got it.
haven't found anything else that is that forward thinking yet.
Yeah, I agree. In terms of because a lot of people will ask, right? Well, how much time is this going to add to my plate? I'm already busy, right? I hear that.
Yeah.
How much is this going to add to me in terms of work and that kind of thing? What would be your answer to that?
So similar to like, what would it cost?
Mm,
It should make you money.
mhm.
What time is it going to cost? It should make you time. Your coaching call, I mean, of course you're going to have stuff to work on, but you've already got stuff to work on. It's just so
Right.
scattered, you don't know what is most important. And
Mm,
it's like whenever we meet with a seller and they're thinking like, hey, I'm going to sell my house. Can you come over and tell me what color of granite I should use, and should
right.
I paint my cabinetry, and we're going to replace the roof, and what do you think about doing all this other stuff? And you go over there and you're like, actually, all that looks fine. Could you replace the carpet? Right? And so you're
Got it.
telling your client where it counts most to put their money so they get more benefit. So they wind up saving a bunch of money because they're hiring you as their agent. Same thing,
Got
I
it.
think, with a coach. Like, we have so much stuff that in your mind, you're like, I've got to do all this stuff.
Right.
But in reality, I think the coach can hone in on a couple of things with you to help
Hmm.
you put your money where those things matter most. And then
Hmm.
that should free up more money and more time, because
Hmm.
you're only spending on what actually matters and not on all this other stuff that can either be done by someone else, which they
Yep.
could help you figure that out, or
Yep.
it doesn't really need to be done at all to make the biggest difference in your business.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a great way to put it. Hadn't thought about it that way. That's a good way to put it, right? You want to save your clients money, so do we. We want to make you more money, et cetera.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Because and a lot of people say, and maybe you did, right? I don't know, but oh, this is a lot of money, right? Like, oh, that's expensive. What were your thoughts around that? Did you have those thoughts, or what would you say to someone who's like, oh, that's a lot of money, that's a big investment. Should I just buy some marketing? Should I just buy some leads? Right? Because
Yeah.
I get it. You guys get hit with a lot of ads, right? So what would be your response to that?
So I wouldn't buy coaching for leads, because I don't think leads are the issue. Usually, it is agents that need to do the work. I mean, we all kind of know the basics of how to rate a lead. We all know how to do the basics
Sure.
of real estate, but a lot of agents just don't want to put the work into it in order
Mm,
to get out of it what we need.
right.
So the money is not. It sounds like a lot in some cases. In some markets, it's not going to sound like hardly anything, which I
Hmm.
think there could be the opposite impact in that situation where, well, it's like it's only this amount. And if you're in a multi-million dollar per home market, it doesn't sound like that much. So maybe you don't value it as much as
Uh,
someone who has to sell like a $50,000 a unit house, and they have to sell 300 of those to equal what
right.
you do in four. So, someone like that is looking at the dollars and saying, wow, that seems like a lot. That's like 12
Mm,
transactions. But
hmm. Yeah. Okay.
so
Fair.
maybe there's a higher value on it for those folks. But I think across the board, it's an investment in which you should get more than that back. So
Right.
for every dollar you invest into it, your ROI from that should be higher. And it could
Mhm.
come from a lot of ways. One is just being more efficient. One is, we do talk a lot about different ways to lead gen and different ways to get that
Mhm.
lead in. So that is a
Right.
part of it.
Yep.
But it's also like how to convert and how to, let's say you're getting 100 leads a month and you're converting one. Well, if you just increased your conversion by one more, then you've got
Right.
way more than your coaching paid for. If you
Right.
wind up 10xing that conversion, which we talk about 10xing a lot,
Hmm.
now, I mean, there's so much more income and you didn't generate another lead.
Right.
So I think that's a way that you're going to
Correct.
make money. So in just the
Hmm.
basic efficiency of how you run your business and the savings you can get. So there's way more ways to make money than the cost of the coaching,
Yeah.
but you also have to value that coaching highly enough to show up and then do what you say you're going to do and put a lot into it. Because if you don't fully invest yourself, it doesn't matter how much you spend, you're not going to get anything out of it.
Correct. Yeah, that's a good point. And I always say too, the reality of the cost of coaching, right, is far less than you're giving away in lack of strategy,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Like there's a thing that one of our coaches told me, and I love this quote. He said, realtor, saying it properly, would say that their job is to help people buy and sell. And he said, no, their job is to complete the right tasks every day with intention, consistency, and strategy that lead you to those opportunities to help people buy and sell. Right. So
Yeah.
when you look at it that way, this job is the all encompassing. You're the CEO running the business. How are you working on your time management? Where are the leads coming from? How are your sales skills, conversion rate? What is your follow-up systems and processes? Are you current and relevant there? Are you current and relevant social media? You're amazing at the digital marketing aspect, right? So much more than so many others. And I love what you share with our clients. So where are all of the pieces working together? And I think a lot of people don't understand that. They don't understand that it's you're the CEO. Let's look at the business as a CEO. Does that make sense?
Yeah. And if you were looking at the business as a CEO, you'd probably hire a consultant.
Yeah.
And that's your coach. So
Right. Exactly. So in terms of your agents, and how are you helping your agents with this? Like, what does all of that look like for you? Because you've got a lot of agents under you.
Yeah. So I personally meet with some of my agents, but in the future, I would love for them to be able to connect with a coach of their own, because I just think it's, and maybe you can add to this, but
Yeah.
I just think it's probably healthier for an agent to hear it from someone else, because they already hear that kind of stuff from me. So
Right.
if they can get an additional set of eyes or some other thoughts around,
Mm-hmm.
the things that they're trying to do, and have someone else invest in them, I think that's always a positive thing, to have more than one input.
Yep.
And then, when those things combine, maybe they start to see things differently. Maybe they're, maybe they just connect with someone else better, which that's cool too.
Right.
But my primary goal for my agents is just to help them achieve their next goal. So whatever I can do to
Yes.
push them forward to their next goal, that's what I want. I know for a lot of people, that's going to be hiring a coach,
Mm-hmm.
and one that's probably outside of me, because
Mm-hmm.
what I can do and my effectiveness is even limited by my own knowledge.
Yep.
And so if they get someone else's knowledge and expertise that's maybe better at something than I am, then it's only going to benefit them more. So I would encourage my agents, especially if there's a specific task that they want to accomplish within a year,
Yep.
hire a coach for a year that is an expert at that task.
Mm-hmm.
And I know from my experience, you can tell people in your organization, I need someone that's really, really good at this one thing. That's who I want. You can
Mm-hmm.
interview multiple coaches if you wanted to, but
Right.
having someone that is an expert at that one thing is
Mm-hmm.
going to be way more beneficial than me having some expertise in a lot of things, but not being an expert in that
Yeah.
one thing that they need to help in. So I
Yeah.
think they'd be benefited more the other way.
And I think the coach placement piece is so important to us as well, right? So, as an example, if I tend to consult with a lot of brokers or team leaders like yourself, that's kind of my specialty. I do a report, right? I go, okay, this is Ray. This is what he wants. This is where he is. This is his personality, right? This is kind of, the conversation that we had. Ray fills out an assessment that goes to my team. They have a conversation with you, right? Like, okay, Ray, like,
Mhm.
let's make sure we're on the same page. So that coach matching aspect is done quite efficiently and succinctly, because even, let's say you decide after the first session, you go, hey, I just didn't vibe with that coach. Okay. Like, just tell us, we're okay with that. And quite frankly, the coach is okay with that, to be honest, and say, hey, you know what, Ray and I didn't really click. He's probably better with, someone else. And then having so many coaches who are it's such an intense process to become a coach for us in the first place. Yeah, okay, who else would,
Yeah.
match Ray with? That's the process. It's kind of intense, actually.
That's interesting. I didn't know about it from your side of the coin. So that's interesting to
Mm-hmm.
hear too. That's
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, it is. It's and I like it because think about it. It's like dating, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Not everybody gets along with everybody, and that's okay, right? I know what works for me in terms of my coaches or my personal trainer. I'm not a cheerleading kind of person. I don't need your good job. Like, that doesn't work for me, but that might make somebody else cry, So, okay, fine. Like, what works for you, that's what we're going for. So I appreciate that coach process, that matching process, whereas I've heard, unfortunately, other companies, like, it's just next in line. And
Yeah.
I really like the customization of, to your point earlier, what's about you? What does it work for you, right? Your area, your life. You know, are you a mom with 2 kids? Are you, a single dad? Are you, married? Are you single in general? Like, what do we need to do for you to get you to that next level? I think it's valuable. It's very, very valuable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could still remember going under contract with my first time having 2 properties under
Mm,
contract in 1 month.
uh-huh.
And I can remember freaking out, like, how do people do this? I don't, my mind
Sure.
is racing. I don't understand how people manage their time. This is just crazy.
Sure.
And, I finally got up to like 4 or 5 and was feeling good. And then the first coach I had through you guys, he was doing like 17 a month. And I was like, wow, that's amazing. And just like listening and trying to soak all that
Yeah.
stuff up. And now,
Yeah.
like with his help and the help of the other coaches I've had, I've built processes and systems for our brokerage to manage,
Mm,
15, 20, 30 transactions a month. And so it's
nice.
just, it's like it's interesting looking back, and now I
Mhm,
look forward,
mhm,
to, there's a couple of agents I know doing 600 million, almost $1 billion in business. I'm like, yeah, that's next level. So
mhm,
there's always just the next step to take and
mhm.
continuing to refine and get better and better. So it's neat to see through the
Yeah.
through the years how far we've come.
So do you wish, as just a curiosity question, do you wish like, hey, I wish I would have just started when I first heard about it? Or are you like, hey, that was the process I took, that was the process I took? What are your thoughts around that looking back?
Yeah, I'm a little of both. I'm pretty
Okay.
analytical guy, so it takes me a
Mhm.
little while to jump on things.
Sure.
I liked that I spent some time really looking into it and looking into the organization, because then
Yeah.
once I did buy in and I saw the benefit I was getting from it, there were no second thoughts or questions like, where's this coming from?
Sure.
So had I
Right.
like accidentally signed up for it on a whim, I may not
Right.
recognize the value that I was receiving and the
Right.
absence of that in the marketplaces, specifically for coaching.
Right.
So because I think I did the hard work, I understand better where I'm at. But at the same
Mhm.
time, I could have just not done the hard work and sign up and
Right.
gotten all the benefit a lot sooner. So I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't know if it would have happened differently or if my path would have been differently or different.
Yeah.
But I do wish I probably would have found it earlier, because I was
Yeah.
having the implementation issues. I was finding the good books and the nuggets and the piece of
Mm,
content and the things I
mhm,
could do, but
mhm,
it was so hard for me to implement those things that I even had at the time a team that failed.
mhm.
And it didn't
Uh,
fall because of the team's fault. It fell because I
mhm,
wasn't ready. I didn't have the
mhm.
leadership in place. I had all
Yep.
the good ideas, but very little of the implementation.
Yep.
And if I would have had the implementation sooner, it could have been a totally different story.
Yeah. I hear that a lot. Unfortunately, teams fall apart because with all of your best intentions, you just don't have those systems and processes in place. And I kind of like what you were saying about, yeah, I can tell my team member this, or I can tell one of my agents this, but hearing it from a coach of their own, hearing it from somebody who's not me. Somebody said to me once, well, I'm in contact with one of your most successful agents. They're giving me some tips. And my thought process was, great. Number one, happy for you. Great. Imagine if you were in contact with thousands of Tom Ferry coaching clients
Yeah.
that could help you, right? And really decrease that learning curve by a lot, to your point of like, could I have done it faster? Sure. Again, not putting down the path that you took, but if we put you in touch with the right coach and we put you in touch with, you know, tons of other people are doing better than you at this point,
Yeah.
is that worth it?
And do you want the grass or the cud? Is that a
I
Southern
want it
phrase?
all. I want it
so,
all, right?
so
Like, I
that,
want it all. Like, I
well,
want the truth.
so the grass, the fresh cut stuff that's straight from the coach versus the regurgitation of some of the top agents. I could tell you from the perspective of an
Yeah,
agent doing a lot that we'll try to give you a tip or something, or you can hit me up and I'll connect with you and give
sure.
you a couple of suggestions. But
Yeah.
it's just as good as like just a quick hit from a book or a quick
Mm,
YouTube thing. It's not going to be the deep level implementation that you need in order to actually see the amount of
mm,
success that you could. So
okay.
maybe you do double your conversion ratio because of the one little thing I tell you on Instagram. But what if you could have 10x'd it because you
Right.
heard it from the person that told it to me? and maybe they
Got it.
could explain it better to you. When I heard it from my coach, he explained it for me and my implementation in my business, but your business is run totally different. So when
Yep.
I explain it to you without looking into your business or knowing what's happening or anything, I'm telling you what I was told, but you
Yeah.
may be running your business or your accounts or whatever completely differently.
Yep.
And you may try it and say, well, that didn't work.
Yep.
Well,
Yep.
it didn't
Okay.
work because you didn't have the deep level of implementation that I got the benefit from my coach.
As a custom level of it for you,
Yep.
right? That's what you're, okay. No,
Right.
I like that. Okay, that's fair. What do you know about, like, I know where you are in terms of coaching, but do you have an understanding of all of our different levels of coaching? Because it's a question that I get. Oh, tell me about the levels. There's core, there's elite, there's mastery, there's management, there's team coaching. Do you have an understanding of what those are?
No, you've grown since I started. So when I
Yeah.
started, it was just like a core and elite. So you've added stuff even since I've started that I
Yeah.
probably don't have the full understanding of it all.
It's pretty people, because, and the reason I'm bringing it up is people ask the question, right?
Yeah.
It's like, well, what if I start at this level? Can I move up? So you take somebody like, let's say, Mark Pattison, which I think you know who he is in San
Yeah.
Diego.
Mhm.
Yep. So, I mean, the guy started, almost broke, right? And has moved all the way up to team coaching. I think I saw his numbers not that long ago, on pace to do like 7.8 million in GCI this year,
Yeah.
with his team, which is awesome. And I like that. I like that it's a constant learning. It's not, because there are a lot of training programs out there, and training is not bad. It's good, right? But to your point, what are we implementing? Are we constantly moving forward? And like what you said, I really liked, you said, oh, I didn't see that before, but now I do. That
Mhm.
next level, right? You have a different vision. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. hmm Okay. So let me ask you this. What would you say to someone who's considering it, right? Like, they're like you, well, let me do this first, or let me, what would you say to them?
Well, I mean, you can always back out. It's
Well,
kind of, Dave
you're in
Ramsey,
for a year.
you're in for a year, but you can always quit after that year though, right? So if it doesn't benefit, you could. But
Yeah.
it's kind of like in reality, and I think you know this too, it's very difficult to not do it after the year because of everything you
Yeah.
learn and what you pick up and
Yeah.
how it affects and benefits your business.
Yeah.
That most people who start it won't stop. And it's like what
Mhm.
Dave Ramsey talks about with the Financial Peace University. Once you start going on that path, he jokingly says, well, you could always go back. But in reality, like your brain, you can never go back because
Right.
you've experienced some of the financial freedom and you've seen your wealth grow and you've seen your life change in ways that you
hmm
can never fully go back.
hmm
And so I would say, just jump, just do it, find the money, figure out a way to do it.
Yeah.
It's really in the grand scheme, not that much. And you'll
Yeah.
make more than that from the help with your coach. Plus the benefit of being in the ecosystem and the referrals and things like that I've gotten is, paid for years and years of coaching that
Right.
I don't have to worry about. So,
Right.
I make enough in the first couple of months of the year to pay for my coach for the whole year.
I've
So
heard that a
it's,
ton. I
yeah,
hear that a lot.
that's
Yeah.
a
Like,
huge
oh, I
benefit.
got all these referrals. Like, this is a no-brainer.
Yeah.
Good.
I know there are a lot of people that join mastermind groups for just as much as some of the elite coaching
Mhm.
costs. So, I mean, look at it
Yep.
like that. If nothing else, and I'm
Correct.
one who believes that even if you happen to get a quote unquote bad coach, which I know there aren't really bad coaches, but there's bad relationships, right?
Mhm.
So even if you happen to get in that situation, you're probably going to learn some immense amount and then get a ton of referrals and benefit from being in the ecosystem.
Yep.
But then please tell someone so they can actually partner you with a coach that you get along with. But I'm just saying,
Correct.
worst case scenario, it's still worth
Correct.
it.
Correct. I love that. And to your point, right? There's a money back guarantee, but I think my biggest thing is like business, right? There's that what's that movie, A League of Their Own, right? There's no crying in baseball. Business is business for me, and my mindset of like, if you need something, ask for it, right?
Yes.
If this isn't working, we can't read minds.
Yep.
So let us know, right? We're happy to do what we need to do and make sure that you have a good experience, but you have to speak up, right?
Yeah. One of my favorite things to hear from one of my agents is that, hey, this isn't working very well. I
hmm
love hearing that because that's my
Yep.
opportunity to jump in and see what can be done. And if
Yep.
they're experiencing that, someone else probably is too that hasn't said anything. So I love
Correct.
knowing when stuff is
hmm
breaking because that either means that we're reaching a capacity level that we need
Yep.
to kind of advance from and scale up to, or something was broken that I didn't even know about. So
Yep.
that's wonderful to hear.
Yeah, I fully agree with you. Good. Well, it sounds like you're having a good experience, and I know you're master of the digital and video, and you're such a great example for a lot of our clients. And I know a lot of people follow what you're doing, and so thank you for just being you and exploring that realm where so many people are afraid. On that note, what would you say to people who are afraid of video and afraid of, I only have an iPhone, I don't have, I mean, you have a beautiful, mic there and your systems and all of that, right?
Yeah.
Which is awesome. But let's be real, right?
Right.
Am I holding up my iPhone? Like, what would you say to those people? Because I would love your feedback on that. Just people like, well, I only have an iPhone, I don't have a professional, studio, etc. What are your thoughts?
Yeah. I started on an iPhone too.
Okay.
And as a matter of fact, I was so nervous about video as a whole that I think I started on Snapchat because I knew I could take a video and it would like delete in 24 hours and I didn't have to worry about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of where I got my start. And then
Okay.
I got more and more comfortable in front of the camera and I did a listing video in our
Mm,
marketplace.
okay.
And it was, it was just me standing in front of a house. And then I showed pictures
Sure.
of the house and it was me standing in front of the house at the end of it doing an
Uh-huh.
outro. And I held my camera like, or my hand really weird. So you couldn't tell that I didn't have a camera guy. And it was just shot. I think at the time I had an iPhone 4.
Okay.
If that's what I
Wow.
shot it on. And then I edited it on iMovie
Uh-huh.
and sitting in my pickup truck and I got it out there. So, I think anywhere you are is where you are.
Hmm.
And if you don't take the steps with what you have, you won't have
Hmm.
anything better in the future to take steps with. So take some
Mm.
steps now with what you have so that in the future you could be blessed with more
Oh,
and then take
that's a
some
great
additional steps
quote.
forward.
I like that. If you don't repeat that for me, because that's, what did you say? If you don't
Basically,
take the steps that you have with what you have, tell me again.
I'll see if I
That
can
was
remember. I was
awesome.
kind of off the cuff. So if you don't take steps forward with what you already have, then you won't in the future have the opportunity to take additional steps with other stuff, with better things, with better equipment. So right now I'm actually shooting this on a used camera that I bought off a videographer that's
Okay.
connected to a cam link and it's a A6300 and everyone
Okay.
out there who knows a lot about video is probably thinking, wow, an A6300, that's a pretty shabby camera. Like it's not that great. And so, but it looks
Right.
good. It's good enough to shoot 4K and to play as a
Right.
webcam for me.
Sure.
This microphone cost a little bit, but I didn't start with this microphone either. So
Right.
you just kind of upgrade stuff over time as you find a
Hmm.
way to connect with people. And one of the ways for me was a podcast and audio stuff. So
Yep.
I upgraded my audio. And then the other way became visual. And so I started upgrading my visual. So
Yeah.
now our listing videos are shot on Sony A7S3s and twos and black magic cameras and all this stuff that
Right.
I don't even know because now I got a videographer. But
Right.
I keep a basic setup for myself just so I can produce some videos on the fly when I need to. But yeah,
Sure.
you just got to start somewhere.
But yeah, to your point, right? Just start somewhere.
Yep.
I love it. Well, that is awesome. Is there anything else that you want to add, or talk about? I'm here and just love the conversation.
No, I think this is great. So I mean, I'm
Good.
sure, one of the things I want to do is pass this to my agents and have them
Mhm.
send you questions and just kind of ask about
Yeah.
it because I would love for them to get connected with an organization like
Sure.
yours. And I think it's
Sure.
going to be helpful. Like if another agent's listening to this and maybe they're getting coached by the broker or by the owner of their company, it is not bad to have a
Mhm.
coach from someone else, outside of your marketplace, especially, and just an
Right.
additional person that you can bounce ideas off of and talk to. So
Yeah.
I think it's a good idea.
Yeah. Well, let me end with again saying thank you. Again, my name is Cheryl Ingram. My cell, which I'm fine to give, is 949-294-1061. So for your agents or anybody you want to share this with, shoot me a text. I'm happy to have a conversation. I'm pretty direct and pretty straight. I'm not your average. I'm not going to push anybody to do anything. I'd rather just have a conversation and add value regardless. If somebody chooses to work with us, great. If they choose not to, great. I'm okay with either.
That's good. Well,
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
Well, thanks for the
Cool.
time. This was fun.
Yeah. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And I'll talk to you again soon.
Okay. Sounds good.
Okay. Bye.